Hello, welcome back to my channel. I have the Norvina Volume 4. Let's open her up, see what she looks like. I am going to be swatching this palette for you. I do this eye look and give you my final thoughts. So if that sounds interesting, definitely stick around. Make sure you are subscribed before we get started. And yeah, if you want to see what I thought of the Norvina Volume 4, then just keep on watching. So let's jump into the swatches. I'm going to start swatching them right here. I'm just going to do row by row. We'll see how many we can fit. Okay, so we have A1, A2, A3, A4, and A5. Okay, so that's the first row. Then we're going into B. B1. These mattes feel pretty good. B2. They're not swatching bad either, so that's good. B3. B4. And B5. So there's the first two rows. Making a mess here. Okay, so let's start with C1. See if I can get the third row in here. C2, that's pretty. Let me go over C1 just because it's so light. See if we can get it. It's almost my skin tone. It's pretty. I can see it looking at it, but it's a very light shimmer. Let's go for a third time. I think that's probably as good as it's gonna get. So C3. It's kind of an iridescent purple. Build that up a little bit. There we go. C4 and C5. So there are the first three. Okay, so make sure my arm's dry. Let's jump in the last two. So we've got, let's see here. That is D1. D2 is that pretty pop of yellow that's in the palette. D3. D4. And D5. Lots of neutrals, but lots of different shades of pink also. We have E1. Start of the last row. E2 feels like it's almost a pressed glitter. It's very chunky. It does have a good binder in it, but I feel like that's a pressed glitter. And then E3 also feels like a pressed glitter. Try and get most of that off. And then we have E4. Use a finger. It's mostly clean. And E5. So there are the last two. So we're going to jump into the look. This is kind of what I came up with, just playing around with a few of the shades. Under my brow bone, I have A1, which is this shade right here, with a little bit of smoking from my little bitty balm palette. So that is what I have under both sides. A1 is that one in the top corner there, that light one. There isn't really and it's super glittery, so I kind of mixed it with that other shade because there isn't like a true good brow bone highlight for me. So that's what I used. So we're gonna go in with E4 to start. That's the deepest shade in this palette. This one doesn't have a black, just like volume 3. And this is the deepest shade. So you're not going to be able to do super dark looks with it, just this palette, unless you want to pull in something from another palette, which you could. So just using these, I don't have a black. I did order volume 1 just because I had a gift card. So I will have a black in that palette, like if you're somebody that wants to just stick with these and use these if you have more than one. Most palettes have a black, so if you don't like have any of the other ones, I'm sure that you have a black if you wanted to use one. Other than the brow bone highlight, I'm strictly using these shades. Let's see if we can, so it just doesn't go maybe quite as deep as I would like. I would probably put a black on the outer corner under normal circumstances just to deepen it up just a tiny bit, but it's not bad. This I think is probably the most like what would be considered like neutrally palette out of the bunch, everyday. Although volume 1 does have a lot of neutral tones in it too. So I'm just gonna blend this just a little bit with this brush. I just color switched it. Is all to get the excess product off. Okay, and I'm gonna go in with just a little chubby blending brush in C5, which is that one right there. And I'm just gonna like tap this on the edge and blend it just a little bit. I didn't want to do too bright of a pink. There's a lot of pinks in this palette. Like I was initially thinking I was just going to do a neutral look, which you could. There's some light browns and like a dark taupey color. But there is a lot of pink in this palette. But I've been seeing a lot of people do like the bright pink with like E5 and C2, and so I opted just to stay away from those shades to try and do something just a little bit different. Okay, and then I just have, this is just a Morphe M518. I cleaned it off, and I'm gonna try and blend that out just a little bit before I go in with the next lightest shade, which is gonna be E1, which is that bottom corner right over here. Just on the brush. And this is a pretty like pastel shade. I watch a lot of like British YouTubers, so they say pastel. So when I think of pastel colors, I say pastel in my head now, even though I'm American. I didn't do my eyeliner this time yet because I tend to make one eye darker than the other. So like this one, I took that shade up a little bit higher on the other side. So let's figure to be easier for me to make a match before I go in with the liner. And then I'm just gonna go back in with E4, which is that sort of plummy color, back into the crease. I haven't noticed any like, these blend out pretty good. I haven't noticed any like pigment issues. They all swatched pretty good, which swatches to me are, you know, just so-so, because it doesn't really give you an accurate description on, because you could have eyeshadows that swatch amazing that don't perform well in the eyes. So I think those look the same, pretty close. I tend to do one eye darker than the other all the time. I like doing my brow bone first, sometimes, especially if it's going to be real glittery, because then I can just go in and kind of buff out, and it's got, the glitter's not sitting on top of the color. Okay, and then I didn't put any concealer just because when I did this eye, it was pretty clean. This eyelid's a little messier. So I'm just going to use the brush I normally cut my crease with, and this is just the NYX glitter primer. I've found, at least with volume 3, that these shimmers work better with some sort of sticky base. I had people tell me just spray my brush, but for me, like, this worked better than using a wet brush. And then I always go in with my finger first, so we're gonna do A5. That's what it looks like. I swatched both of them on my hand because I wasn't sure. So A5 is this one. Okay. And then I just take my ring finger. I do this first because this gives me the most impact, and then I'll go back over it with a brush. Because I went in with a brush initially and it wasn't as impactful as I would like it to be. So I get more pow right off the bat with my finger. And then I took that little, this is a Jessup Petite blending brush in B2, which is right there. It's a little bit lighter than E4. Similar tone, but a little bit lighter. And then I went in with just a little bit of E1, just to kind of help. Make sure I got the same amount of pink on both sides. And then just with that flat brush that I used before, I drag the shimmer towards the color, just to kind of help blend out that edge just a little bit. And then for the inner corner, I did some D2, which is the yellow, because I figured why not, it's in here. That seems to be the shade that everybody's talking about in this palette. People either love it or they hate it. I don't mind it being in here. And then I took a little bit of A1, which is the one that I used on my brow bone. It's right here, it's really pretty. So I'm just putting that on top of the yellow just to make it shimmery. I guess this putting the yellow in the tear duct is like unicorn tear or fairy tear, like there's a name for it. I don't really know. And then I'm just taking a smudger brush and E4. And do shimmer on the lower lash line like I normally do. I felt like the top was pretty sparkly, so. And then we went in with the C5, which is the same shades. Basically did the same thing I did on top. Below, like normally I would have put a shimmer below, but I felt like it was pretty shimmery already. And then just a little bit of E1. Kind of blend that out. Okay, so that is the look. Let me put some liner on and mascara, and I'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts on it. Okay, so this is the finished look. I just did some mascara and liner, and this is one of the Bite like mauve lipsticks. So let's talk about the palette. It's 25 shades. It's the same size as the other 3. Do basic math here. To me, this is a pretty neutral palette. There is a lot of pink in it, but most of the pink, you only have 2 really bright shades. The other pink shades are very more on the natural spectrum, and then you've got some nice browns and the taupe. The shimmers are nice. The only thing that I would say, like these 2 are, like this is for sure pressed glitter. I'm thinking that that's a pressed glitter too. I did swatch it, but I'm personally, like, I started wearing contacts, so I wouldn't even consider using those unless I was going to wear my glasses, just because trying to deal with getting pressed glitter off with contacts in doesn't sound like a fun time. So I don't know how much I'm going to use those 2 shades, but other than that, I think it's really pretty. This color story really spoke to me. I have volume 3, And then I bought this. The only reason I ordered volume 1 was because I had a gift card. So really this and volume 3 would be the only two that I would have had I not gotten a gift card from my mother-in-law. So yeah, this color story really appealed to me. That's why I bought it. Again, it's not, you don't need it. I don't know that anybody needs any of the 4, but if you like this color story, I think you will be happy with it. The formula is consistent with my volume 3 palette. I haven't received volume 1 yet, so I don't know as in comparison. I've heard that volume 2 is probably the most finicky formula out of the 4, but I can't tell you that for sure because I don't own it. But yeah, I like it. I think it's a good palette. I think, again, if you like this color story, you would be happy with it. The only thing that I think is a bummer is that there's pressed glitters in here. I wish you would have just maybe put some deeper shades and gotten rid of the glitter. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you're subscribed. Let me know what you thought of the look. I do wish there was maybe one more deeper shade since there's not a black in the palette, because I said getting rid of a glitter I think would have made that better. But other than that, I don't have any complaints about the palette. Let me know what you guys thought. And again, thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in another video very soon. Bye, everyone.